This is the Well Within podcast for women who are tired of managing, striving and second guessing and are ready to reclaim their power. I'm Jacquie.
And I'm Ellie. We're a mother-daughter helping women reconnect to their innate power, even when life is chaotic, challenging and uncertain.
This isn't another self-improvement podcast. It requires readiness and willingness to go to the edge of something different and new, and to notice what's hiding in plain sight.
This space invites you to return to who you were before the world taught you who to be.
And reconnect to your well within.
Because when women reclaim their power, anything becomes possible. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today on this week's Well Within podcast. Today, we're going to be reflecting on the conversation around burnout that we had with Clare Downham. Yeah, what a great conversation that was, and what an amazing journey that she's been on. And it was great to almost witness what it was like then and now for her, and how she, I think just her journey and how she feels as if the burnout was not necessary, but obviously couldn't be avoided. And also it's led her to where she is now. I think it was a really great conversation. It touched on so many good themes, which I'm sure we'll chat about a bit more today.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. It was, we covered so much, and I really think that, people will have got quite a lot of like, I can see that, because it's huge, isn't it? And I think especially with what is going on in the world today, it feels so busy. We've got to be on our game all the time, because I don't know, it just feels good to be looking over our shoulders, making sure that, we're okay, and it's so
exhausting.
So fast paced and exhausting. And I really resonated with a lot of the stuff that she mentioned. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh yeah, remember that one. Remember that one. And it is so, I don't know, so heavy, sort of widespread. I mean, burnout, I think it's a sort of spectrum of it. And we kind of touched that she couldn't really see it at the time, even though, she discussed how, she was feeling that there was this kind of almost like this slow, I think she said took about a year for it to fully sort of be there in her face, saying, right.
Yeah. Well,
stop.
I think she'd ignored a lot of signs and signals, right? For a very long time, it sounds like.
Yeah. And it's like, what was sort of going on there, that ignorance of it. It was just driven by, a mind and identity that has to just keep going, push on. It's so common, isn't it? It's so common in all of our in all of our lives, in different areas, different flavors of work and what have you. And it's almost like, the mind just wants to do more. It has to be, like she talked about this reward. She wanted to be rewarded. The carrot was always there, but she couldn't grasp it. But if I just did more, and if I, just carried on, then it might pass, or I'll just keep going, push. And we don't listen, or we just ignore, because there's something, well, if you ignore those signs, then what would people think of me if I the heaviness on just letting go, the heaviness on, I could feel the conversation of actually saying, I'm burning out, I've burnt out. It just felt like it was almost, she couldn't say it. There was something, this compulsion that I have to look away, just keep going.
Yeah, because it was almost as if in her conditioning, and obviously we spoke about what she felt like she inherited from her mum, is that, keep going. And probably was that element of, and I think she did mention weakness around that admitting and sort of surrendering to the burnout. And yeah, you can see how that narrative has completely influenced so much of her life. But I think a lot of the time, and I know that obviously her reflecting on it, now she knows what she knows, she can see things differently. And it is one of those things that, yeah, you look back on, you think, God, yeah, there were so many signs, so many signals. But I think if you don't have the capacity to, and you've not necessarily come to a conversation like this one, you don't you just don't have necessarily the language or the understanding of kind of what's going on to even appreciate or take that step back and kind of get that perspective. And we always talk about when you're in it, you're so in it, like you've got those blinkers on, you just can't see it. You can't see the wood through the trees. And then it's only looking back, you're like,
Yeah.
I was doing whatever was going on. And it's so obvious, but at the time it feels so real, like the program's running, the movie's playing, and you're just absolutely encapsulated by the whole thing. You can't see the screen, you can't see that you're the projector, that you're the creator of the whole thing, and it's just running. But
Yeah.
that is, we talk about it all the time. It's like that duality. We have to have the human experience to be able to see these things. Eventually, yes, sometimes it does take longer for people to come to this and see it, but once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. And there was definitely times where, that innate intuition brought her to the doctors,
Yeah,
that brought her to, you know, doing all the work that she did, which, I can absolutely resonate with.
yeah,
We've done the work, we've done it all. Absolutely. And then gone round again and did it again. Because that is the norm, isn't it, in society, that you just have to work on yourself because there's something wrong with you, because you just have to keep, you have to keep pushing through. You have to, if you don't, then you've kind of failed.
yeah.
You
And it's all
feel,
coming from the same place though, isn't it? It's like that elusive carrot dangling. Once I fix myself, once I get that thing, then I'll feel better. And it's all coming from that. Yeah. Once you've figured this out, once you've done these 5 steps, once you've got XYZ, then you'll finally be okay.
yeah,
That's
that,
it's the same narrative throughout everything, isn't it?
yeah. And that sort of, that push, and then that sort of doing the things that kind of, like I don't know, meditation. I can't remember all this sort of more softer sort of stuff that she said she did, but she'd gone down there as well. But now it's like, once kind of we've seen what is really, really going on, it's just pushing all the stuff down deeper. It's soothing it. And of course the body will respond, because it's like, yeah, God, yeah, we've got a bit of relief, we've got a bit of respite, and yeah, absolutely wonderful. It's like the cycle's still running. I've got to do this, and then I'll be okay. Whatever it is, the soft stuff, I've got to push on and be better, be more confident, find out how to be stronger, to be more resilient, and there might be times where, oh, yeah, that kind of helped, or yeah, that really relaxes me. But we're still back in the root. We haven't seen where it is all coming from, and that
Yeah.
is obviously what we're always talking about, and what you said about, once you see it,
Yeah.
you can't unsee it. And I think, as well as, like health professionals, I've been a health professional for so long, and you think about sort of doctors and other health professionals, if they could just see if they, but I mean, it has really helped me with my work, with other people, with patients, and working obviously on the body, in the mouth, to see the absolute physical, the symptoms, the effects of stress on the body. But it's joining all those dots up, isn't it? And because we know that obviously stress is something that really does impact the body,
Absolutely.
but but we're back in the same cycle of trying to fix these areas, or soothe these areas in the body, or make things feel better. And it's just still not really working.
Yeah. And I think it was really interesting when Claire was talking about, I think she was saying that she'd been obviously doing a load of work on herself and things. And she thought that, because she kind of figured out the burnout thing, and like, it's not, it can't be that. So therefore she started looking in the direction of, to feel better, she needs a man, she needs a relationship. And it was almost like, yeah, it's like, if it's not fixed, then you automatically think, oh, it can't be to do with that, it must be to do with this. And it's almost like that's just a never ending hamster wheel. It's all, you're always looking for something else in a different area to fix something that just doesn't need fixing at all.
Yeah. And we talk about this leaking out sideways. You just think you've ticked one. Oh yeah, I've got that sorted. Like, she said, and yeah, I can really resonate with the relationship thing. Chasing those relationships. The next one, yeah, the next one he'll be the one, and everything will be okay. Everything will settle, and then da 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 da. And yeah, oh my goodness, I think. And there's nothing, that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with this, because
No.
we'll all do it. It's all
And everyone's got
information.
their own journey, right? It's like, it doesn't matter,
Absolutely.
yeah, at what point in your life you come to this conversation, or if you never come to this conversation. But
Yeah.
all of the things that have happened in our lives had to have happened for us. It's like, we can't control that. But yeah, obviously just sort of saying that everyone's journey is different, and not to get caught up or feel frustrated with yourself when, and I think, yeah, just thinking about Claire, looking back on her burnout experience, she could have easily just sort of said, oh, I'm so fed up with feeling this way. And yeah, she just could have felt like that could have just completely taken over. But she'd said at the end that obviously to her, the burnout was the gift, because she wouldn't be where she is today without it. So I think it's sort of not beating yourself up, and instead of fighting yourself to not experience those uncomfortable experiences that you don't want, it's like they're there for a reason. They're there for, like you say, that information back to allow us to see. And it's obviously, with Claire's experience, you can see all the various different signs and signals up until that point that she ignored. And it was like, bam, this is, well, you're going to listen to me now. Obviously, like we said in the conversation with her.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So many people are kind of, she was brought to her knees. She was brought to that
Yeah.
stop start signs to say, right, lady, you got to stop. You got to stop now. And, and yeah, what a gift, because what we're talking about isn't finding something. It's when everything else is seen through and taken away. What's already always here is that innate resilience, that intuitive balance that she spoke about, that eventually she kind of could see quite clearly that had been always there. She talks about the inside out understanding, how our experience is created from the inside, not the outside in. And yeah, I think you could see the difference from the beginning. That's all her thinking, all her everything that she was, that inner voice that was telling her to do was completely unreliable. There was no reliable information that kind of stopped her, and it kept taking her on because of that conditioning that was driving the bus, almost driving her to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that can go on for so long. But the gift was the burnout, the stop. And that in itself was, yeah, she listened then. That was like, okay, it's
Yeah.
time.
She did listen, but then I think it was really interesting still, obviously, when she's saying she'd come across that Facebook post of her friend who'd done the Michael Neal training, and he was looking for
Yeah.
practice sessions coaching. And she still was like, oh yeah, he can fix me, he can make me more productive and whatever. And it was still that constant seeking and that exhaustion. Yeah, basically disguised as almost failure to her, because if she couldn't figure this out, if she couldn't get more productive, then she would somehow be weak or failure or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite interesting, obviously, just from hearing how she was describing how she felt after that experience and after that session with him. She obviously said that things started to settle and she noticed that, yeah, things were more easeful. And I think that's the thing with this conversation. It's not like, and I guess, yeah, just comparing it to, and I know it's in often in our thinking, it's never ever happens this way, but whenever you feel like, oh, I'm finally gonna, when I get this amount of money or when I'm more productive or whatever it is, then this feeling of like, I don't know, yeah, absolute celebration will come over me. And obviously that never happens. But I think with this conversation, there's no big fanfare like you've got there, like, well done, here's a medal, here's a gold star. It's very much, it's subtle, but like Claire said, changed her whole life. But it's one of those
Yeah.
things that it slowly, the more and more you hear and the more you're in this conversation, the more and more you're actually willing to look and get curious. Yeah, it just naturally starts to unfold, but it's not this big eureka, you've transformed, like we talk about this.
Mm,
It is a conversation for the rest of your life.
yeah. And I think that's a good thing to kind of notice when you're kind of looking for that fanfare, you're looking for that, well, that big, oh yeah, I've got there, that enlightenment moment that, oh, I've made it. That is a sign, that is a gift almost to say, no, you haven't. you know, it's still, identity, it's still the mind, it's sneakiness pulling you off, keeping you sort of in that drama because it just loves the drama.
Yeah.
Because without the drama, we wouldn't realize the peace that we already are is already here. It's just when that kind of, even a little bit of space to move that out the way and just see what is already below the surface. We were talking about, all the tools and hacks and everything. I mean, yeah, we're not saying that they are wrong, but they're on the top. What we're talking about is underneath the surface. It's always there that we just don't talk about really in society. And it's not because I think it's so fast paced. We want fast fixes. And
Yeah.
but what we're talking about is so once it's, like we say, once it's kind of seen and once we start recognizing what is going on and what's really going on in the mind, that we're not our thinking, we're not our thoughts, we're being pulled by them and believing them to be real, but we're not in we can't see, like you said at the beginning, the wood for the trees. We can't see reality, what's actually going on. It's all in the imagination. We're just in the future, always in the future,
Yeah.
and we're missing what is here right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
I
yeah.
I really like what she shared as well around when I asked her the question towards the end about how her leadership has changed and or how she views leadership then and now. And she spoke about she was listening intuitively and setting boundaries has been such a change for her. And obviously she really struggled with saying no. And that, yeah, as a teacher, I imagine quite a lot of people are like that,
Mm,
not just in the teaching industry. But yeah, it's almost like when she was okay enough in herself and saw kind of the people pleasing and everything playing out, she was able to then step back and have more perspective to see, actually, no, I don't agree with that, or I'm not going to do that for you. And yeah, I like how she talked about that, intuitively listening to the body to understand the boundaries, like what feeling comes up in the body before you then, and when you're asked to do the thing, is it like an immediate, oh God, no, that feels really uncomfortable, I don't want to do that, whatever. It's like a lot of people ignore the body completely a lot of the time. Yeah, and I just really liked how it's such a easy thing to to feel when you're about to respond. You can tell whether it's a yes or a no in your body, but it's quite interesting because obviously a lot of the time people could maybe feel it, then bypass it anyway and say yes.
yeah. Or or not feel it, and just not feel it, because there is just such a disconnect, because they're so up in their head. And I know this for so long. And even though, as I say, to be beginning, I'm a health professional, I know the connection now so clearly. Even at the time, early on in my career, it was like they were the mind and the head and the body was pretty sort of separate. But I mean, yeah, but even I think a lot of people can't feel that sort of that inner yes or that inner no until kind of they notice really what is going on with the thing, that they're just believing their thoughts, and that they feel solid, fixed and real. And it's almost like they don't, they don't think they're going to change. They think this is it. This thought is so compelling that it feels just so solid and real that we've got to follow it, and, or not. Yeah. And I know that sort of very much for that inner yes. For so long, it was a performance, because we talked about fawning. And if I felt very vulnerable, or this person, I was being in a challenging, conflicting situation, I would just exit, shut down, exit. But my whole body was in like this fright or flight mode. I could tell kind of that, but it was just exit. It didn't even have a boundary. Wasn't even something that was even thought about. It was no, I can't. I've got to get away. Or if I wanted to say yes, I felt it was a very valid sort of yes, I was too. Yeah, I was too sort of scared, or felt not good enough to be able to voice my opinion. So yeah, there's always this flip flop, of, oh yeah, it feels like, and then, go into defense mode, which can come out so wrong, and then you beat yourself up afterwards for saying it. But yeah, boundaries for me, nowadays, it's almost like, if I think about a boundary, I think I'm in resistance. Yeah, it's almost like I'm in resistance to what is that, almost like the need for a boundary is saying something, and it's almost like the boundary isn't actually needed so much anymore, because I'm pretty much no. And this is a clean, we talk about clean no's, because it's almost like, well, what do I want in this situation? Is my want feeling as if it's going off track, or is it sort of quite clean? Can I continue with the want, and am I getting information back? And is that allowing me to, to just navigate? And that's my sort of internal compass, almost, to be able to see what's going on. And yeah, boundaries are slowly, not as sort of as necessary for me. I don't know whether you feel
Yeah,
feel
not,
that.
I guess they're probably not as necessary in terms of them being so obvious as I guess the it feels to me, it flows easier. So yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. It's almost as if there isn't there probably is the boundary. It probably exists. But yeah, like you touched on, it's not really something that needs to have too much thinking around, maybe, because it just flows in a way. And yeah, obviously there are some times when in work or whatever, when I'm, yeah, just think, like, for example, just this week I had to, I was on a call, and the team that I was speaking to basically suggested that this report that I'd sent over, all the data was just wrong and incorrect and blah blah blah. And I was sat there, and I was sort of a bit like, I don't think it is, but anyway, I'll go and review it. Then they basically, because they thought something was incorrect in the thing, they were like, oh well, um, you'll have to send out all the emails now in relation to what it was we were doing. I think maybe previously I would have fawned and said, "Oh yeah, no problem," because there wasn't an immediate, "Oh gosh, I've done something wrong." There wasn't this wrongness that came up in that. It was very much just like, "Okay, well, if I have done something wrong, then I've done something wrong, and I'll fix it or whatever." There was less thinking around it. But in the conversation, I said, we don't have time to send all those emails to all those people. It's not something, it wouldn't even be something we would do in the first place anyway. But was very clear we're not doing it. And that was quite interesting because, yeah, previously I wouldn't have said that. But then I went back and looked at the report and they were flapping over nothing because it was literally just one piece of information that hadn't been moved over to one of the tabs. Yeah. And then I went back and I owned that as well. I went back and I said, the only thing that was missing was this off this tab. And then it was quite interesting because they never replied to that message. They just kind of aired it. Yeah, it's quite an interesting experience, to be honest.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm hearing is that the boundary almost is less solid. It's like you can see this perforation around it because there's more capacity in yourself, and your owning your inner trust almost is, I've got this. I can speak up. There's not that sort of, oh, I can't say anything. What will people think of me? But there was like, I could feel the almost like the boundary of this sort of trustness of, and you can speak out, but less solid, less defensive. Yeah,
exactly. And they were very senior people as well. So now looking back on it, I'm quite interested that I actually did own that and just said, no, we're not doing it. But I guess that's, again, going back to that subtleness of this conversation and the journey as well. It's almost until you have these experiences and then you obviously get the information back to the system and then you react however you react. And then now looking back, it's like, actually probably a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have done that. And it's just quite interesting to reflect on the evolution and the continuous sort of seeing and growing and changing in different areas.
Yeah, because it is a continuous, like you said, a continuous conversation. And because there isn't that fanfare, it is a subtle, gentle falling away of stuff that used to be so prominent and so necessary for survival. But Claire spoke about personality profiling, didn't she, as well, in there a bit, and how that is it's so common. People really sort of feel if I can find out what kind of personality type I am, which we all have obviously traits, we all sort of are geared towards sort of certain things in our lives. But it's when we think that personality is fixed and it's that is who we are, and we've got the boundary around that personality almost. And then we polish it, don't we? And we kind of look after it and we perform to that personality type or personality types. But what we're talking about, there's nothing there because this is what we already are. It doesn't need anything adding to it. However, when we kind of realize that, because it almost allows that natural, that unique essence that is almost hidden. We didn't talk very much about that, but if we had a longer conversation, we could have spoken about that. It's almost like once it's settled, that we don't have to keep this elevated, polished personality that we think is this management system, which is all the mind, just sort of, which is great. We will all have traits that we're good at these sorts of things, but what we're talking about is just allowing life to just to move through us, and with the settling, the decision, the next obvious step is so much clearer. It's unbound, it's not kind of laden with shouldn'ts, what if, and the future. It's and the past then coming, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because remember that happened. It's so much lighter and freer, and I think this conversation can trip people up a bit, and you were talking about the fanfare again, because it is so subtle and so gentle and obvious. It's not passive at all. Because of the obviousness of it, which is lighter, we just do the thing. We just do the next thing. And I really I really heard that. I could feel Claire's the whole, when she started the conversation at the beginning, she was so sort of, it was, her energy was, she was remembering and it was really high. And then when at the end, it was just like, oh, we all
Yeah.
came back sort of into, yeah, does
Yeah,
it
it was
need to be
almost
like
like
that?
it started it as the Claire, the head teacher Claire, the personality profile, like persona that she'd built around this head teacher Claire. And then as the conversation continued and as she took us through her journey from then to now, we then at the end of the conversation, it was that complete softening because that is who she truly is.
Mm, mm,
There was no need to put armor or protection or anything around that. It's just that's how she's now living her life. And that's why things are more easeful and decisions are clearer. She has better boundaries and things like that because that is just, it's coming from who she truly is rather than everything she thought she had to be this person, to be this head teacher.
yeah. And her whole relationship with stress, because there's always going to be times that there's going to be, we could say a stressful situation. There's always going to be challenges because that is life. There's always going to be a person that pushes our buttons, but it's knowing that that isn't actually happening to us. We are reacting to what is going on in that moment. We're reacting to what our thoughts are telling us it's about, and that is huge. And once we kind of notice that, it's almost like, okay, I've got, there is a choice here. I can either carry on this train of thought that's getting, going to take me off, or I can choose to just to see what is going on. Oh, I'm really caught up at the moment. And she kind of said, I'm caught up. There's no capacity to have that conversation at the moment. I'm going to step out. And that's the most honest, most loving, most self-loving thing to do. And then that ripple effect, because you're not going into it, like a bull in a china shop, because you're not in defense mode. There's nothing to defend or protect. It is, this isn't going to work just now. We'll return to this later. And yeah, for me, that has been huge, knowing, ah, this isn't, yeah, right
Yeah.
just now. Let's leave this.
Yeah, exactly. But then even if you do go into that conversation like a bull in a china shop, because like obviously we still do that now,
Absolutely.
it's also absolutely perfect because it's just another gift to see that you're caught up, that you're not coming from a place of your true self. It's literally this identified, got all this thinking around it, it's heavy, it's like there's so much going on. Um and yeah, stepping back and like, oh, okay, I can see that now. And then it's like,
Mm,
okay, what information is that? What's that sort of telling me? What can I learn from that? What can I get curious about that experience? And okay, why did that specific thing maybe trigger me? Not in a case of dwelling on it and like completely unpicking it and dissecting it. It's sort of like, okay, interesting. And then yeah, it's getting curious about where that could have come from. And it might
yeah,
happen 10 times again in the same thing until you see it and you're like, ah, okay, I can see why that's going on now. That's
yeah,
absolutely perfect and it can't be any other way. And I think that's what is so amazing about this conversation and this journey because it's so unique for everyone. There's no like, okay, prescriptive 5-step plan and you'll get from here to here. It's like you're constantly seeing more and more. And the more you go out and actually experience life and have these challenging conversations, put yourself in those situations where you feel uncomfortable, like you feel the fear and you move through it anyway. That's what we're talking about, getting the information back into the system and really just seeing what happens,
mm,
seeing what comes up for you in the body and really feeling into it and owning it. Not yeah, not exiting.
mm. And the more you do, yeah, the more you do, the more you see it, the more that it sort of, yeah, that you kind of see it more quickly, and it doesn't. escalate, or and if you do, you are more gracious with yourself, you're more forgiving, because you're like, "Oh, okay, had to happen. Now,
Yeah.
what am I seeing in myself that I didn't see before? What am I learning in myself that I didn't see before?" And that was something that Claire said, that when we asked her what she would love to, for our listeners to hear. And it was that, learn about yourself, and what we're talking about. And she was, it's that inner working, what's really going on, where is our experience coming from, what is the mind, really getting curious. And just a bit of dot joining, as you say, it isn't a process, it's something that can be done right now in every area of life. Relationships are the most brilliant experimenters to do this. Yeah, it's not something that anybody needs to know what we're doing. We doesn't need a plan. It's just, can I see life a little bit differently today? Am I open to that?
Yeah,
And
it's that willingness to be curious, isn't it?
yeah,
And to see
absolutely.
something different.
Yeah. What an amazing conversation. That really, really, I loved it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
what a lovely, lovely person she is.
Yeah. A fellow Northerner.
I mean, I was actually going to ask you, we always ask a well within question, what kind of brings you back, and what have you.
Yeah.
What are you noticing these more so for yourself these days about your well within?
That's really interesting one. I actually don't think I do anything anymore. I don't actually consciously do anything to bring myself back to my well within anymore. I think I just know that I'll get it back. Well, it's always obviously there, but I know that there's nothing I physically need to do or force or change. If I'm if I'm feeling really shitty and sad, I'll feel shitty and sad, and I'll feel it. And I won't try and coach myself out of it, call you or whatever. Like, obviously, sometimes I know I do, but yeah, I don't know. I just allow it, I guess. And then I wake up the next day, and most of the time, yeah, it's kind of dissipated, it's gone. But then it's still okay, what was that about? What does this mean? Because obviously, a lot of the time when you're actually in the experience, it's quite hard to actually get curious about the experience because it's happening, isn't it? And you're so almost possessed by it. Yeah. I don't know
Mm.
whether that's a good answer.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, it just feels more awareness around it, that it is just there. What once maybe felt like something to find is just
Yeah.
there, and it's always something to, yeah, just to drop back into. And there is always going to be that messy humanness, and the messy, stuff. And like you say, we get possessed by something, but it is temporary. It's when we kind of label it and think it's gonna take over for us, or that there's something wrong with, when we label that there's something wrong with us, I need to fix this.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
just, it falls quickly.
Exactly. I think the more and more you try to fix it or, I don't know, yoga it away or whatever it is that you do, the more you're actually it's almost like you're giving it more airtime. It's taking up more of your, yeah, of everything. And it just, yeah, it's just like the more thinking and the more on it you feel it is, the more it
Mm,
takes over and the more it becomes something. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but often I think times we give things unnecessary meaning and
yeah.
it becomes something bigger than it actually is.
And then the more we can enjoy these beautiful spiritual experiences like yoga and Pilates and meditation or retreats, we can enjoy just being there, being present, rather than thinking that these things are gonna fix us or change us in some way. Oh my gosh, I think that's huge, really.
Yeah.
We can enjoy the experience of what it really is about, bringing us home, but just allowing us to be settled in the already settling, in what
Yeah.
is already there.
Beautiful. Well, I think we should wrap up there. But yeah, what a great conversation anyway. And yeah, thanks again for Claire for coming on. It's great.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for listening.